Tarek from the Bluestones, Lee Eckley, a pleasure to meet you. It's been a while. I've been familiar with you guys for quite some time now. It's finally nice to see you in person.
Yeah, hey, it's yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, a pleasure. Um, 1 year ago today, so we're taping this just so everybody knows on March the 11th, 2021. And it was 1 year ago today that the World Health Organization officially declared a worldwide pandemic. And for me, I don't know about you, well, was it one of those I remember where I was moments for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, when we got word of everything, it was like right as we were sound checking for our show in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Um, and we just got the word from our managers like, hey guys, just FYI, this is the last show of your tour, which in fact was the first show of our tour.
Oh,
Um, but he's like, yeah, you guys are gonna have to turn around and come back after this one because we're gonna be canceling the rest of it. So yeah, that's where I was.
what a letdown.
Yeah, it definitely was. We were really eager to get out west.
Did you have any inkling that it would last this long? I thought maybe 4 months.
Yeah, I never thought it was gonna last this long. I was kind of more along the train as you were. I thought it was maybe like one of those diseases or one of those viruses that pop in every year or two, like swine flu, and everybody gets all worked up about it, and then it just
Yeah,
happens to disappear. Yeah, I did not expect it to last this long, though, for sure.
yeah. Congratulations, by the way, Juno Awards nomination earlier this week. That must be nice.
Well, yeah, well, we were nominated in 2020, so that was absolutely great to be nominated. We didn't this year. I don't think we put out anything to be nominated for, but the shirt that you're wearing, though, Crownlands, those guys were nominated for best rock album, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they just released their new one today. So hopefully we'll
Oh, there
be
you go.
chatting with them sometime soon. They had a nice little write up in Rolling Stone magazine about their new music today as well, which was
No
really
kidding.
nice.
Wow, that's great.
But uh, but back to the Bluestones. How have you kept yourself busy over the last year? How have you stayed motivated? It must have been a challenge, and still
Um,
is.
yeah, it was definitely a challenge. It was like trying to just be motivated to do anything as far as like performances that are from your house. Like, there's not really all that much that you can do to equate to what a live show feels like.
Mhm.
So it's having to do everything that you can behind the scenes and sort of just hoping that you're still maintaining this connection with your fans. We did do a live on display performance where we put together like a big production that felt and sounded like a live show, but I don't think anything quite relates to the actual thing.
I think fans though are digging in and becoming a little bit more interactive now that they have to. Do you find that maybe they're a little bit more engaged?
I feel like to the bands and artists that they're very loyal to, then yes, yeah, they almost double down on it because they're able to see them in such like an intimate way now with home concerts and artists just having to focus more on their social media presence than they ever have before. I feel like people really feel closer to them that way because you're seeing a side of your favorite band or artist that you've never seen before.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You really have to work a lot harder in a different way now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. 10 years together?
Just about, yeah, yeah. A lot of those years we were independent, and then more recently, management label, everything else. But yeah, 10 years. It's been quite a ride.
And you are a duo. Have you always been a duo?
Yes, yeah, always a duo from the start, and it definitely has its pros and cons, but more pros really.
Okay, give me the cons and then we'll talk about the
The
pros.
cons, I guess, there's only two guys to do the work, right? So it's split half and half. Whereas I think bands that are larger can delegate a little bit more to like other people in the band. The pros, though, it's easy to tour with two guys, and it's a lot cheaper to tour with two guys. And also, there's only one other person that you got to get the approval of. So that's always nice.
What if the drummer wants to fire the guitar player?
I'm sure there's a protocol for that. I just luckily haven't run into it. I don't
Well,
know.
hopefully you won't have to set that precedence.
There you go. Hopefully, we don't have to create the protocol for that.
With the technology to your avail nowadays, it's a lot easier to have a big sound with two people, but at the same time, there is a lot more to manage, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You mean as far as like performing live as too?
I'm talking about performing live.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more to manage. Like my responsibilities definitely are wider now that as the guitar player, frontman, vocalist of this duo, I have to make sure that while I'm performing and putting on a show, I'm playing all the parts right and making sure that all the effects changes are on and supporting both the low end and the high end as far as soundscape is concerned. And it's definitely a lot more involved because there's only two guys up there and there's only two people making the noise for you. So both Justin and myself have had to take on extra responsibilities just to make sure everybody's getting a great show.
Are your sound technicians a little bit more engaged as well? Are they able to assist you in that way?
Yeah, they've definitely been a little bit more of active sound mixers than they have just kind of like plug and play sort of sound mixers. We've worked with some pretty awesome dudes, and they've been able to really hone into what we like and provide people with like the best representation of the sound because they're there actively mixing and turning volume knobs up and down and pushing certain frequencies up and down as it's needed throughout the entire set.
Have you and Justin been able to interact in the same room together in the last year at all?
Yeah, a couple times. We did get the we were fortunate enough to be able to play a drive-in show in Toronto, which was always great. That was back in October of 2020. But there's been other times too where we've been able to meet up just for short periods of time to, let's say, do like a photo shoot or do some sort of an interview together or work on some new music. So there's been some times, although few and far between, but we've definitely experienced them.
But when you get together to play, if and when you do that, it's not like hopping on a bike again, is it?
No, it's definitely well, you mean in the terms of getting the wheels turning and getting right back into it? Yeah, it takes a
Yeah.
little bit to warm up for sure. Um, it's almost like you got to turn on your artist brain again and just really focus in on, what you're there to accomplish, whether it's creative or administrative.
Yeah, I often liken it to a race car. You just don't you have to run a lot of laps to set up
Absolutely.
the car and get it going, and then you have to race again to get into the groove. So for you
Yeah.
guys, for example, you barely would have gotten started in Winnipeg last year when it really you probably might have needed 6 to 8 gigs to really find a groove.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. And usually that's the case on tour. It's like your first four shows are almost like you just working out the kinks and trying to figure, how trying to get back into the groove of things. And then after that, you hit your stride and you keep going.
Do you have a favorite kind of venue to play?
I've definitely liked the theater style venues now, like anywhere between like 1,000 to 2,000 cap rooms. Like they're small enough to feel connected to the audience, but they're big enough to still feel like you're playing a big show. Those are my favorite kind of rooms to play. Before it was definitely the small, tiny, packed in bars, which I still love to play every now and then. The only problem with that though is that we have so much gear now that even for two guys, we take up so much space that it's almost not feasible anymore. Yeah.
Is there any gig that's too big?
Too big.
Yeah.
Honestly, in my eyes, no. I feel like if we're on a stadium stage or an amphitheater stage, I'll still figure out a way to fill the space. Don't worry about that. I don't feel like there's any too big of a stage to hold us.
How was that drive-in experience, by the way?
It was different. It was not a show that I was ever used to. Obviously you're used to crowd interaction and seeing people's faces and seeing hands, but in this one, you had to almost tape your expectation to just looking at a bunch of cars. But to be honest, the fans that were there did a really great job of making us feel like we were right at home with the show. They used the high beams or they honked their horns. They used their windshield wipers at times. Like it just all these modifications that sound absolutely absurd, but honestly made for a pretty good experience.
Yeah, it's a whole new etiquette, eh?
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just new. It's different.
Yeah. Hopefully you won't have to have that kind of experience for too much longer and get back to the way it used to be. And I have a feeling that after September, we're slowly going to start rolling again. And if we're lucky in the next couple of months, I I know one thing more than any other year in my whole life. I just can't wait for longer days and warmer days and just being able to
Yeah.
spend time
Yeah.
outside. Have you been able to stay motivated to stay active? Because I personally have found it really, really hard just to move around all winter.
You know, it definitely takes a little bit of extra push to get me to like go do something. I find that like enrolling in some sort of a class always is a bit of a motivation. Like I've said this in a few interviews now, but I've really picked up boxing, and I feel like that just having something that I'm accountable to makes me get out there and gives me the motivation to go and do something and move. And I'm always happy that I do it too. So if anything else, you know, if you feel like you don't want to get out there and move, at least when you're done, you'll be happy that you did.
And boxing gets you into shape, doesn't it?
Oh my God, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah,
Believe
that heavy bag
it.
is a fantastic workout.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Yeah, I know now. That's for sure.
50th anniversary of the Ali Fraser fight earlier this week, or was it last week? I think it was on Monday.
You know, I had no idea. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
So
have you ever, sorry, have you ever seen it?
I've seen the fight. I just did not know it was the 50th anniversary. That's crazy that it just passed.
Yeah,
Yes.
just an astonishing event, the fight of the century, and still the biggest fight in my lifetime for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. So do you know what date that was, or was it last week? You said
You know what? If I'm not mistaken, it was Monday. So what was Monday? Count back. This March 7th,
7th. Yeah,
and that would have been 1971.
I'm surprised I didn't see anything on like socials about that. You would imagine
Yeah.
somebody would have posted somewhere about it, or maybe I just completely missed it.
Do any sparring?
No, not. You know, it's funny because like they've asked, and I don't know. I guess I'm just a little bit hesitant. I've spoken to a couple guys who have been doing sparring, and a couple people who've got concussions and things, and I just don't know if I can risk it with all this music stuff. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
But
as long as you're staying in shape and keeping moving, and good for you, and it'll really, it'll, it'll, it'll do you a lot of good. Absolutely. So look, you know what? I could sit and chat here a lot longer, but I'm sure you might want to go up and do a boil and bag for dinner or something. And I got to go to work at 6 o'clock. So I see you holding the guitar there. How about you singing us out with something and
of
setting
course,
it up for me?
yeah, for sure. I would love to play "Shaking Off the Rust," which is kind of a song that's been doing a lot of work for us. It was recently at the top of the rock charts in Canada, and I feel like what better song to play as we shake off the rest of the winter going into some finally good weather.
And just on a personal note, my son came over to visit today. I told him I was talking to you, and he said, "Oh, I love shaking out the rust." So go for it. This is great.
Bang my head against the wall. Try to find my stride, but I trip and I fall. Losing my attention again. Yeah, I hit the bottom, but I'm on the mend. Take another step, push it to the edge. Just a little more, I can see the end. Yeah, you're finished, yeah, you're mine. Always win in due time. You think too much, it's in my head. So I'm shaking up the rust, and you got no trust. It's in my head. So I'm shaking up the rust. I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire, made it back again. Lord knows I tried everything I can, and I'm shaking up the rust. Yeah, I'm shaking up the rust. Bang my head against the wall. Try to hold a smile, but I'm sick of it all. Everyone with something to say. Better hold my tongue or I make a mistake. Show them what I do, show them how it's done. Never turn it down, never gonna run. I learn. You think too much, it's in my head. So I'm shaking up the rust, and you got no trust. It's in my head.
I'm shaking off the rust. I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire, made it back again. Lord knows I've tried everything I can, and I'm shaking off the rust. Yeah, I'm shaking off the rust. Shaking off the rust. You think too much, it's in my head. So I'm shaking out the rust, and you got no trust. It's in my head. So I'm shaking out the rust. I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire, made it back again. Lord knows I tried everything I can, and I'm shaking out the rust. Yeah, I'm shaking out the rust. Oh, I'm shaking out the rust.
That song's got some great changes in it.
Oh, thank you.
And you sing great.
Oh, thank you very much. I hope I do, man. I'm doing this for a living.
Good for you. Tarek from the Blue Stones. We'll see you out there.
Sounds good. See you guys.
Thank you. Cheers.